Yigit Erbil est professeur et docteur à l'université Hacettepe d'Ankara. Il a soutenu en 2005 une thèse consacrée au culte de l'eau à l'époque hittite. Il a travaillé avec beaucoup de prestigieuses institutions comme le British Institute d'Ankara ou l'American Research Institute in Turkey. Et il est donc professeur à l'université d'Hacettepe depuis 2012. Alors, il a justement publié beaucoup d'articles en lien avec son travail sur le culte de l'eau, notamment un article qui s'appelle « Boeskuy Sudburg v sous cultu », donc le culte de l'eau en particulier lié à cette architecture qu'on appelle le Sudburg sur le site de Boeskuy. Et en collaboration avec Alice Mouton, qui interviendra immédiatement après, un article extrêmement intéressant qui s'appelle « Water in Ancient Anatolia Religions », An Archaeological and Philological Inquiry on the Hittite Evidence. Et tout dernièrement, ils ont publié, tous les deux, un très intéressant article de géographie historique, From Ikuvania to Ura, a reassessment of the geography of the Hulaya Riverland according to the Hittite archaeological and philological evidence. Un article extrêmement intéressant sur justement une partie de ce pays louvite qui se trouve dans l'ouest de l'Empire hittite. Mais sans plus attendre, je vais lui laisser la parole pour nous parler d'un site monumental extrêmement intéressant, une source monumentalisée, le site des Flatoun Penar. Yigit Erbil, çok teşekkürler.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this nice introduction. And before to start to my talk, I would like to thank the organization committee for this nice exhibition and the conference, especially Vincent. Today, I'm mainly going to talk about cult practices based on archaeological material. And because of the time limit, I will focus on 3 archaeological evidences, and these are from Konya, the Eflatun Pınar, Fasıllar, and Hacettepe monuments. The Eflatun Pınar monument was selected as a case study, and the other 2 monuments in the same region selected for understanding similarities and differences between them in terms of imperial cult and landscape use. Before looking at all the structures in our localities, I would like to give some information about some of the terms in archaeological view. Yes, by the way, this is the what we are going to talk about. This is Eflatun Pınar, just south of Konya, in Beyşehir region, and Fasıllar and Hacettepe monuments. The term empire is derived from the Latin imperium, means power and authority, and politically, an empire is a geographical extended group of states and peoples united and ruled by a central authority, either by a monarch or an oligarch. In the context of imperial political structure, 2 types of empire exist. One is the territorial empire. It means direct conquest and control with force. And the other is hegemonic empire, which is indirect control with power. It is obvious that territory is one of the most important aspects for empires. So we can ask, what is the meaning of territory for empire? So territory as a bounded space under the control of a group of people, usually a state, is therefore historically produced. When we look at the keywords of this explanation, some of the words come to the fore like bounded space, control, group of people, and state. So another and more meaningful description could be possible for territory. It can be understood as the political counterpart to this notion of calculating space and can therefore be taught as the extension of the state's power. As part of our discussion today, we should ask how it's possible to show state's power within the boundaries of an empire covering a large territory. Of course, monumental constructions, festivals and rituals are the main activities of the state's power, and performances took place not only in Hattusha, the capital of the Boğazköy itself, but also the outside of the capital. And now we focus first to Eflatunpınar monument. It's out of the capital, as I said, in Konya. The sacred pool of Eflatunpınar, approximately 90 kilometers away from Konya at the south, in the city of Beyşehir. It is alimented by an underground spring under the pool itself. Most previous studies were focused on the iconography of the monument. The main scene at the center of the monument represents a divine couple. The male figure is seated on a throne on the left side, as you can see, and his female counterpart is seated on the right. The male figure probably represents a storm god, and the seated goddesses, who wears a typical Hittite polos, a kind of hat, most probably depicts the sun goddesses. The divine couple are represented with two mythological Atlantis, bull man on the lower row, and lion man above them. They are carrying a sun disk above. On the lowest row, which was found in 1996, the 5 mountain gods are standing. The 3 mountain gods in the middle have several holes at their skirts, and water flows through these holes into the pool like a fountain. On the southern wall of the pool, a relief of a seated female goddess with a block. It's probable that a second relief depicting a storm god was also standing beside her. I'm sorry. Here is the plan, and we first talk about the main monument. And now, at the eastern wall of the pond, southern wall of the pond, I'm sorry, just opposite of the main monument, there is an there's a relief on a seated female goddess with a block, and it is probable that a second relief depicting a storm god was also standing beside her. Supposedly, there's an altar which is standing at her feet. The southern corner of the area, at the eastern wall of the pond, there are two figures. Yes. In relief, they are represented as if walking towards to the north. And the southern corner of the area, a trahite block was found. On the front of the block, 3 bull protoms can be seen. The geophysical studies that we conducted here showed the existence of water channels and proved that the area was meticulously planned by Hittite engineers. Inside the pool, 12 fragmented bull figurines and 2 lion figurines were found. Votive miniature ceramic vessels, which are very similar to which were found in Boğazköy Pond, the capital, were also uncovered inside the pond together with 1 bronze pin. The religious function of this site is obvious. The whole complex constitutes a sacred pool, probably used during religious ceremonies, rituals, and festivals. On the other hand, the monument seems directly related to the Hittite great king. First, the sun disk is represented 3 times on the top of the monument, and secondly, the deities represented on the monument seem to be the tutelary gods of the Hittite king himself. The heads of the Hittite official pantheon belonging to a particular reign are usually the personal tutelar deities of the king. Therefore, it can be suggested that this sacred pond was an important station for the pilgrimage of the great king during cultic festivals. Our another archaeological sample is from fossillar. It is difficult to understand the iconography of the monument because it is lying down, and so we are going to look at the replica at the Anatolian Civilizations Museum in Ankara. The statue is approximately 8 meters tall, and it's made of trahite, which is a type of local stone. The entire structure is carved in a high relief and consists of 2 lions that are carved as almost entirely rounded. Both of the fronts of the sides of the felines project beyond the outer edges of the totem-like monument. 2 Hittite guides are positioned between the 2 lions, one standing on top of the other. The gesture of the bottom deity strongly suggests that he is a mountain god, and the conical cap of the striding position of the upper deity identify him as the storm god. Fossillar is generally being associated with the Hittite spring sanctuary of Eflatun-Pınar. In 1962, James Melid was first to suggest the existence of a direct relationship between Eflatun-Pınar and fossillar. But this idea is should be think more and more, because 2 gigantic monuments, Eflatun-Pınar is 6 meters height and fossillar 8 meters height approximately. 2 gigantic monuments representing at the same time. We don't know this kind of representations from the Hittite art and architecture. And also we should say that Eflatun-Pınar monument foundations not strong enough to bear another monument like fossillar. So it's another thing. But we are not thinking in the same time, or in the same time in the together, represented together. Yes. In 2011, we visited the fossillar site and located what we believe is a sphinx that possibly dates to the Hittite period as well, approximately 600 meters away from the fossillar monument. This is almost 2 meters in height. The sphinx was not completed, as you can see. It's apparent that the legs, the underbody, the wings, and the hood-like headdress were in the early stages of being formed before the carving was abandoned. It is important because the fossillar monument was the only one Hittite monument in that area before. And when we found this, we are lucky that the Hittite period is not alone just for the fossillar monument. There's another monument from the Hittite period. Also, we did some RTI photographic techniques at the fossillar, so it would be better to understand the details of the monument. And we can see the upper part of the sphinx. So it's more obvious that you can see much more details about the leg part and the other options. And most of the scholars think in that area it's just a queer space. But after that we found it. If this area was only a quarry site, why would this sphinx carved out of the stone located up a hill at a location difficult for transportation, especially since there are so many other large stones in areas of easier access? And when you get the top of the hill at the sphinx, where it is located, was meant to be located in this position at this very spot. So you can see the whole valley from that point. Elizabeth Bloxham and Tom Haldal, who investigated ancient quarry sites in Eastern Mediterranean, have concluded that quarry landscapes are especially exploited at times of political instability. Increased competition among ruling elites often results in a rise in construction activities relating to strategies of legitimacy. As such, increased activity at quarry sites can be associated with periods of power struggle. And our last sample is from Konya again, Hacettepe. It is the Hittite rock relief, is located near the village of Hacettepe, about 16 kilometers south of Konya city center. The relief and the hieroglyphic inscription are carved on a flattened rock surface. And when we look at it, it's better to look at the drawings because it's difficult to see on the original one. When we look at it, there's a hieroglyphic inscription and has been read, Kurunta, the great king, hero, son of Muwattali, great king, hero. It's obvious that the Hittites conceptually merged the natural landscape with images of their rulers and gods. This established an imaginary network of lines that linked the settlements with places of ritual that contained monumental images. When we look at the historical information, Hulaya Riverland, which became incorporated as a frontier territory into the southern kingdom of Tarhuntasha under Muwattali II, may well have bordered of region of Eflatun and Fasıllar. The Hulaya Riverland was a part of the kingdom of Tarhuntasha, yet the unstable political dynamics during the final decades of 13th century BC indicate increased territorial changes and regional competition. It is likely that increased attention on the general area where both Fasıllar and Eflatun monuments stand played an important role in the territorial changes occurring at this time of instability. These two monuments may be associated with opposing powers competing over this region of strategic significance. In fact, the magnificent efforts associated with these three monuments not only show the importance placed on these sites, but also display the close regional connection with deities and supernatural powers. So, religious beliefs and geographical structures interacted with each other and constitute monuments in Hittite society. The monarch occupied a central position in Hittite ideology, and the king was the linchpin of the universe and responsible for the proper service of the gods by humankind, and in turn represented human society before the great power of the gods. These practices were observed in ceremonies which incorporated communication with the gods of underground, cult of the ancestors, and the cycle of the seasons. Evidences of a practice serving more than one purpose were revealed as essential elements, constituting ideas and giving messages to the society. Or in other words, collective memories such as wishing for a productive year, the prosperity of the society and empire, sanctification of the deeds of the king, propaganda of the divine rights of the king, and consolidation of the imperial power. And finally, I would like to show you a very short movie, just for 3 minutes, from the Eflatun monument. So it is much more meaningful, I'm pretty sure, when you see the movie, how gigantic and how impressive all these Hittite monuments in these competitive years. Can we look at the movie, please? Yes, thank you very much.